Welcome back to the channel. Well, Saturday in the shop. It's a little cold here. I'm gonna have to get the heat out in a minute. So got the car down the other day. Now it's time to finally come in here. These vent hoses, I got to run them. I got to hook that one back up to this valve cover. And I got to take this out and run to the back of the car. So Advance finally brought me my hose so that way I can get all that adapted. But while we're at it, since we're getting ready for dig or die, and I think we're going to take it out. We're going to try. We're going to see. I figured today would be a good time to come in here and get the car ready. So the first thing we need to do, we got to go in here and we got to take the front and we got to change our springs out. I got too heavy of a spring on the front. I'll show you why I said I got too heavy of a spring on the front. So basically, when I jack the car up, right now, we'll measure now what I have in it right this second. And what I have in it this second is what we normally race on for travel-wise. I have my limiters on, so I'll unhook my limiters, and we'll see how far we have just unhooking the limiters, and we'll see how loose the springs get in the front. These are, if I'm not mistaken, are 14-175. So they got 175 pounds per square inch, I think is what it's called. How it is, force holding the car up. Well, what that does is you got to run your spring down there pretty low on your coilover to get the car to set low. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some 100s on the front of it, which will allow us to run the spring higher to set the same ride height. But when it gets to the top of the shock, we won't have the extra play in it from there to there where the spring gets loose. The spring will actually stay tight, so it'll have more stored energy. So let's get our measuring tape out. Let's go ahead and measure our wheel gap. See what it is. Let's pull the limiters loose, measure it again, then let's put those on it, and let's just see what we come up with. So if you look at ride height, it looks like we are sitting 23 and 3/4 right there. Look at the measuring tape, a little bit below 24. So 23 and 3/4 is our baseline for where it's at the ground. We'll measure off of. So we're right at 29. So if you take 23 and 3/4 from 29, that puts us at 5 1/4. That's how much travel we have in on a normal Thursday night prep. So now let's go ahead and take the limiters loose and see how much more it'll go. So now we're at 30 and 3/4. So it gives us 7 inches of travel. This is what I'm talking about right here. So see that right there? You're not going past that. The spring has no energy past probably 5 inches because it's all the way at the bottom to lower it. So now we're going to put this other spring on here. We'll be able to get ride height, and basically it'll still have energy from 5 1/4 to 7. It'll still have stored energy because that spring will still be helping it lift the car up. So we're going to go in here. We're going to pull my strut mount loose. We're going to pull the spring off. We're going to put the other spring on. Then we're going to spring our collar up here, set our rod height, and then I'll show y'all what the difference is. I'll show y'all what we're doing like that, because the car, I mean, it can lift past this, but this spring ain't helping it at all. So ideally what I want the spring to be up here like this, holding the car up that much right there. But when it's at full extension, holding the car up. But if I do that, then I'm gonna have the Carolina squat, and the car ain't gonna sit down there all the way down like it needs to sit the way I like it to look. So we're gonna go through and do that next. Ride with us. So yeah, these are 175 same height springs. But like I said, these right here, you can tell by how thick they are. These won't collapse as much as these, so I can run these higher and keep my rod height the same without having to worry about all that slop at the top. Some other things I'm going to show y'all on this in just a minute. Y'all just hold on for a minute. I want to show you once I get it back together. I got something to show you. I think you'll like it. So as you can see, we have that much spring before. So now we can spin this up to get that slop. We'll start there and then we'll set a rod height once we get it up. But we're going to get that up here where it has stored energy all the way to the top, releasing itself. So hold on one second. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to pull the bolts out of here. I'm going to loosen this up. I'm going to flip this over and bolt it back up. And that way that'll give me about another inch because it drops down to the bottom. It'll mount my stud will be lower, so I'll have more travel. But I also have something else that goes along with that you kind of got to do with each other to make all this work right. So check that out, 32 3/4. So that should put us right at 9 inches. Now look at this. Our spring is tight. So we got 9 inches of lift. This ain't no long travel shock. This ain't nothing but a Viking Crusader, nothing special. But I'll show y'all why in a second, why you can get this. Most Fox bodies, you can't get this much out of it. And I'll explain to you why in just 1 second. So as you can tell, that's how much I've rolled it up right now. We'll set it down and check the ride height in just a second. But I want to show y'all this. So on Mustangs, the front suspension, you can put all the travel in the world that you want in it and everything. But what you run into is this right here, this lower ball joint. This lower ball joint, it's usually welded more at like this angle here. See how that's that way and then this is this way? It's normally welded more at this direction. What I did, I went in here, took my lower control arm, cut the ball joint loose. I had to narrow it up anyways for these front wheels. And when I did, I took that ball joint and I laid it over towards the inside like this. And the reason why I done that is when the ball joint's this way, as this suspension travels down and that wheel falls outwards, you max out that lower ball joint. That's the one thing that'll keep you from getting that extra inch or 2 inches out of the suspension left is the lower ball joint. Because what it does is this control arm comes down, that ball joint, once it's locked, say that ball joint is on a 90-degree angle. Well, once it comes that last little bit of angle to here, then as it comes down, it binds it and it keeps the front suspension from coming in any further. So what I did, I come in here and cut this, and I took the ball joint, and since the ball joint never goes outwards, even when the suspension's up, it never teeters outwards. So you never really use the outer part of the ball joint. So I really don't understand, like, they should have, from the factory, these things should have been welded at an angle anyways, because that allows you to go from this range of motion all the way to the other side. So say if you're starting here, then the suspension goes down, you only got so far before that thing fully locks on the edge. So if you take it and you start it over here, then as it comes down, that thing will just come to here like this as the suspension comes down, just straight up and down. So like I said, I welded the ball joint. If you look at it, I welded it on a different angle, and that's why it's not on this angle no more. You can actually see it right there. It's more that angle, but it would have been like that. But I welded it like that, and that's what got me the extra bit of travel to keep it from binding the front up as this thing comes down. So that's really the key to the front suspension, is moving that ball joint, that pickup point on it, so that way you can, as it articulates out, it don't max that out. I mean, it still maxes it out, but that's what gives you that extra bit of travel. So there's the ride height we're going for. It's going to be a little bit more than where it was when we go Thursday night stuff. We got a little bit more height in it because I got that spring around a little tighter for more force up. So now we got to go to the other side, do the other side. Then what we'll do, we'll jack the car up about almost all the way, but kind of in between this height and that height, and we'll align the car with the front end up in the air. Well, let's just use this hand. We'll line it with it up in the air like this, and then we get a nice medium, because if you turn around and align it down, we don't race in this down position. If you line it here, when it goes up, then wheels will toe in and toe out. And when they toe in and toe out, it'll cause the car to drive funny. So what you do, you jack the front of the car up to about halfway in the middle, and that's where you line. That way when you're going out on track, that's about where you're at on the big end, and the car will be super stable and it drives good. And that way when you let off of it, you're going to the pits, it doesn't matter if the wheel's a little crooked, because you're not racing at that speed. You're at speeds when the wheel needs to be its straightest. So that's what we'll do now. So let's go through and do the other side, pull the limiter off, do all that work, and then just ride with me for a little bit. We'll see where this goes. All right, it looks like we might have left the ground right Right there, leaving the ground right there. So there we go. We got all the front travel in it now. Everything buttoned up on both sides. Limiters are off, new springs are on. Caster and cambers are flipped over. So now I'll have to go in here, work on getting the alignment right on the front end. I went ahead, hole sawed me 2 holes up there and run my catch can lines from this valve cover because I hadn't ran them yet. Because, you know, if you remember, if you're new, I blew the valve cover gasket out here recently, probably a couple months ago, and that's when I parked this thing for a little bit, found out some issues and stuff. So we went ahead and added more bungs for more hoses because I had just one in each cover. So I just we added another one. So I took the 2 on that side instead of crossing over, put both lines there and run 2 new lines all the way through the car. These lines right here, they keep you warm when you're driving. When you're going down the track, they ain't too good in summertime, but they work good in the winter. I got them here, so got all that addressed. I'm gonna zip tie all that together, tie it all up. Let's fire this thing up and just see what see what's blowing out of it, or make sure there ain't no leaks, and just go from there. I gotta pull that fuel cell out this week. I built a piece the other day. Let me get it real quick. So I built this piece this week when we was over at the dyno the other day. So I gotta take this to Nigel's, I gotta mark it, get Jake to weld it there, and I'm gonna drill a hole and tap it. I'm gonna drill one this way, and that way this is supported a little better so we ain't gotta worry about it cracking. So I gotta get that welded on this week.